Greetings YouTube, Alan Lube. I'm back with another video. It's been a while. Today I have not a fab deck tech, but instead a One Piece deck profile. I've been playing One Piece for a little bit now, and I've been to like 2 locals, and this is my first deck profile. Don't mix it up with first place deck profile. I definitely did not win locals, but this is my first deck profile for Doflamingo, so decided to just clickbait a little bit. I do think it's a little funny how everyone just puts first place in their titles though. So anyways, so Doflamingo was the character I decided to try out first. I opened maybe like 2 boxes of One Piece, and I pulled like some blue super rares, so I decided to just play blue. And I've been enjoying it so far. The deck feels very good, but at the same time I don't think it's necessarily like the best deck to bring to a treasure cup or something, and I'll talk about that later. So let's just get right into the deck profile. It's pretty standard for the most part. Yeah, let's get into it. So Doflamingo, if you don't know, his leader ability is Dawn 2, and when attacking, you can pay 1 more Dawn, so 3 Dawn total. Reveal the top card of your deck if it's the 7 of the Warlords, or the 7 Warlords of the Sea type character card with a cost of 4 or less. You may play it rested. So basically, his thing is you can cheat out cards from the top of your deck without paying their cost, but you do still technically end up paying 3, but you also swing for 7, which is a nice breakpoint to have. So first off, we have for Perona. When you play her, you basically look at the top 5 cards of your deck and reorder them however you want, and you can place it on top or bottom. Now, clarification, you can't place on top and bottom. You have to pick either all on the top or all on the bottom. So this is how you basically reorder your deck so you can get the most value out of Doflamingo. You can see what you can draw, you can see what you can play off the top, and it's just like basically the card you hard mulligan for in almost every matchup, not necessarily every matchup. Next, we have 4 3-cost Doflamingos. This is basically the same as Perona, but he's also a blocker, and he's also a 7 Warlords of the Sea. So if you have like no better hits, you could play this off the top with Doflamingo, but for the most part, I prefer to draw it. 1k counter, pretty good. I don't think I've ever seen a deck list not run all 4 of these 2 cards, just because it's basically core to your deck and game plan. So that's pretty standard. Moving on, let's move on to the Warlord cards that you want to cheat off the top. You have 4 Boa Hancock. This is probably currently the best Warlord that you can get off the top. Her ability is she's a blocker for 4 costs 5,000. Most of the Warlords are 4 costs 5,000. And Dawn 1, when attacking or on block, you draw a card if you have 5 or less cards in your hand. So this is very synergistic because, and I'll talk about this later also, one of the weaknesses I find with Doflamingo is that you run through your hand very fast. And that's because even though you're allowed to cheat cards off the top, you play them rested. So when your opponent comes into attack, in order to like keep tempo or keep this value, you have to like counter from hand. And if they're swinging for 7, that's 2 cards easily. But the great thing about this deck is that even though you have less cards in hand, you have cards like Boa Hancock or Love Beam, the event that'll let you draw cards and get back value. So 4 of those for sure. Probably the best one you can get. This is probably like the second best one for later in the game, Gecko Moria from the starter deck. His on play is that you may search or add 1 7 Warlords of the Sea or Thriller Bark Pirates type character with a cost of 4 or less from your trash to your hand. So basically, this just lets you recycle. It's very good. It's basically a +1, so easily 4 of those. Next up, we have 4 Mihawk. His main role is that he's a 2k counter, but if you have no better hits, he's still a 5,000 attack. So his ability is Dawn 1, when attacking, draw 2 cards, trash 2 cards. Sometimes this this can be useful, especially in matchups where you're digging for a specific card. For example, against Kid, you really want to find your Mihawks, your Virgos, your Doflamingos, or Crocs, whatever you're playing. So having this and being able to basically cycle through your deck faster is pretty good. The one thing is, though, I have been in situations where attacking with this will mess up the stack that I previously made. So this deck really rewards thinking ahead. So if you expect to use Mihawk's ability, then you can adjust your stack in a way where you draw specific cards and you want to trash specific cards from your hand. Next up, we have 2 Blackbeards. So Blackbeard is a big MVP. A lot of people love him. Some people play him at 4. Some people play him at 3. I don't think any list plays less than 2. His weakness is that he's only 4k attack. But his ability is that you can return 1 character with cost of 3 or less to the owner's hand. And against like Red or Red-Green Law, this is very useful because that's one of the few ways you can interact with them when they're not attacking. But bouncing like a blocker or like a Robin or an Okiku or something is just very powerful. It's a lot of tempo, but yeah, I've just found that the 4K attack is something that I don't love. Oh, camera's lagging a little bit, but yeah. But I could see this going up to 3. I originally played it at 3. I'm trying 2 right now, but yeah, Blackbeard's pretty good. Next up, we have the last Warlord, and that's 4 Kuma. So Kuma is another 5k blocker, and his ability is that on KO, play 1 Pacifista with the cost of 4 or less from your hand. So let me just get the Pacifistas out too. I only play 2 from the starter deck, and they're the 6k beaters. There is a 5k Pacifista from the OPO1 booster pack, but that one's a blocker. But I've just found the 6k to be much more relevant. It's harder for the opponent to get rid of it, and you're swinging for the extra 1k, which is pretty good. So Pacifista is weird because it's very good when it's good. I don't know, that's kind of self-explanatory, but at the same time, if there are better cards, this would probably be the Warlord that I would cut first, like this package. It just requires so many cards. Like if you draw this first, it's kind of a dead card in your hand until you find a Kuma. And even though Doflamingo lets you sort of cycle through your deck faster, if you're stacking, you're not necessarily cycling through, you're kind of just seeing what you're going to get. So but I still play it. It's very good, especially in the Kaido matchup. They have to worry about blowing up your board or attacking into a Pacifista. And then next I have 2 Jinbei. So but this is basically the spot like the 2 Blackbeards would come in, or the 2 extra Blackbeards came out for. I found with like Red Green Law that they don't interact with your board at all, and once they get 5 characters, you fall behind really fast. So this just lets you interact with their board a lot better. Against red, it's also a good play on 4. If you're going first and you have 7 Dawn, you can play a Jinbei and then activate Doflamingo's ability, get a character rested, bounce a card to the bottom. It's just very good. And also, if you have no better, another issue I found with this deck is that you don't have a lot of good plays outside of Doflamingo's ability. So just having a good card to play on 4, other than your Warlords, is just another nice thing to have. And the trigger ability will also just win you games if you're able to hit it. There's only 2 in the deck, so it's unlikely that you'll play the trigger, but if you do end up hitting it, it will probably win you the game. Next up, we have 4 Alvida. These are just 2k counters. Nothing special about that. Her ability may come in handy. It's Dawn 1 when attacking. Trash 1 card from your hand. Return 1 of your opponent's cards with the cost of 3 or less to their hand. So it's another bounce effect, but you have to trash 1 card for it, and you have to attack with Alvida. So sure, you can put 2 Dawn on her, attack, and then maybe bounce a blocker. That might win you the game. But for the most part, she's just a 2k counter. A lot of times playing her can be a liability if you need the counter. Like sometimes you may think you want the board presence by playing down another body, but sometimes that 2k counter will bite you in the ass if you don't have it. So next up, we have 4 Blocker Law. I thought about going down to 3 because this is actually the card that I kind of like to see the least, honestly, when I'm stacking my deck. It's a card that I want to see late for the most part, but I think just having 4 is right because a one cost blocker is just so powerful in this game. Ooh, moving on. Camera's being a little glitchy again. We have 4 Virgo. That's right. I'm going all the way up to 4 Virgo. So this is basically just for the Kid matchup. The problem with Kid is that once he plays down his 8-drop Kid and blockers, you have a really tough time getting over it because most of your bodies are 5k. And having 4 Virgos that you can play on 5 just lets you establish board really early. And you just need to pressure them so that they're in a position where they can't play Kid. And Virgo is just one of the best ways to do it. So let's talk about, I only run 1 Doflamingo. I think his ability is very good, but I don't know, just the fact that he doesn't have counter and is like, his ability is okay. It can be really good in some situations, but more often than not, I end up not caring about the bounce. For example, if I'm playing against red or law, I don't really care about bouncing like their 1 or 2 cost card that they're like not even attacking with. And so playing this feels like a liability and it doesn't have counter. So that's why I went down to 1. I'd rather play the 4 Virgos. Another card you can play is Crocodile, but honestly, yeah, I just think it's whatever. The banish effect is good. It's obviously great to have, and the 1 Dawn making your events cost 1 less is also a powerful ability. Like Spada will cost 0, Love Beam will cost 1. But I just feel like Croc is a bit of a win more card. Like if you're already in a good position and you play down a Croc, you're in a great position. Whereas Virgo just seems like a card that puts you in a great position in the first place. So that's why I decided to go. instead. And then to round out the big boys, I have 3 Mihawks. So Mihawk, I rarely see people run 4. They run at least 2, and I see a mix of 2 and 3 for the most part. I find that I want 3 just because in the matchups where I want to see him, I really want to see him. So I really want to play 3. And yeah, this is just one of the most important things to get down against Kid before they play their Kid. Like if they play like a 5-drop blocker law or something like that, you can just bounce that to the bottom with Mihawk and then have a 9k on board to pressure them so that they can't play Kid. It's just one of the most important cards in the game, to be honest. And then even if they get the Kid out first, Mihawk will help you climb back into the game if you find him. Maybe even find 2 of them, etc. So yeah, those are my big boys. There are 8 big boys, 8 7k plus. And that's the ratio I've mostly found people to run. They'll run a mixture of Virgo, Mihawk, Doflamingo, Crocodile. But these are the ratios that I probably prefer going forward. So yeah, moving on is the last card for Love Beam. So Love Beam is just the best blue event. It's cost 2, your leader or one of your characters gains 4k, and then draw 1 card if you have 3 or less cards in your hand, which is great because this deck, you blow through your cards extremely quickly. And I'll talk about why in a little bit. But yeah, I've debated going down from 4 to like 3 or maybe even 2, but because this is not a card you want to see early. Like it does nothing early for the most part. Your Dawn is very, very sparse in the early and mid game until you reach your 10 Dawn or even 9 Dawn. You probably will not be playing this at all. So drawing it early is a huge liability in my opinion because you really need those counters in the early game. So that's the deck. Let me take a quick break. I'll splay out the deck and I'll talk about some matchups and what I think about the leader as a whole. All right, so this is the deck laid out. Some considerations is I don't play Spada. I have found that Spada, the 1 Dawn, is honestly pretty hard to find in the mid game floating. And the reveal the top 3 effect is good, but the issue I have with it is that so often I'm already stacking with my Doflamingos and Peronas that Spada just lets me relook at cards I've already stacked, so I don't really care too much. And yeah, for the most part, I would rather just have like the 2Ks or something like that, something that with the counter so that I can just block when I need to. Other cards I don't run. Sentomaru. I think Sentomaru just doesn't get enough value, I guess. I don't know. I haven't really tried it personally, but I don't imagine it would. I just don't think there's any space in the deck right now, to be honest. And it's not too much better than any of the cards I have currently in. And I would say that's mostly it. I've seen people run Bone Clay, another 2k counter. I've tried it, and it seems fine. But the issue is that you just have to make space for it. Like either you have to cut part of your big boys, or you have to cut like a blocker law, or even like the Jinbeis or something like that. And so I wouldn't mind running more 2k counters with Bone Clay, just because I feel like those counters are extremely important. But yeah, this is the deck. So quickly, let's talk about matchups. Zoro and Luffy, I'll just group them together. I'm just going to talk about like the 5 most common leaders. I'm not going to talk about like the Blurple Croc or the Blurple Kaido and things like that. But for Red, Zoro, and Luffy, I find that it depends. Some of them will try to just straight rush you down. Some of them will try to just aggro you out and just oh yeah, same thing. Some will try to rush you down and others will try to control your board. I think that honestly, they have the potential to go with either strategy. Even if you're hitting great off the top, there will come a point where you run out of gas. And the fact that you play your cards rested is always a huge liability because they can simply just leader swing into whatever you play off the top. And that in my opinion, is probably the biggest weakness of the deck. And then for me, I would just focus on trying not to play like the Doflamingo or the Mihawks. Virgo is fine to play because 7k is like pretty big and it's hard for them to deal with for the most part. Like they can't just jet pistol it. They can Otama jet pistol it, sure, but like that's perfectly fine, 5 for 5. And Otama's not really going to do much. But you really just want to get as much value from playing cards off the top as you can, and also trying not to run out of cards. Try to protect your Boa as much as possible so you can draw cards, and then just, you know, play a usual mid-rangey game from there. Let's talk about Kid. So Kid, in the early game, you definitely want to pressure him, you know, swing at life, swing with your characters. But by turn But by the turn when you have 7 Dawn, excuse me, or 6 if you're going second, you really want to have Virgo. You want to dig with Perona and Mihawk and Doflamingo to draw these cards because you need to play them before he plays his kid. If you play them after he plays his kid, chances are he already has too much going for him that you can't claw back from. So I would say, like, in those cases, it can even be correct not even to mulligan for Perona, but to mulligan maybe even for Mihawk, because that's just how important he is in the matchup. Like, for example, a hand with Mihawk and Doflamingo I would keep. I would just skip turn 1 and then play Doflamingo and then go from there and then have the Mihawk ready. If you draw into another one, that's perfect. Just having more of those is really important. You want to get rid of his kid. You also want to protect your life early, because if you're trying to get over his kid and you're at, like, 2 life maybe, then he can just double swing with kid and just close it out. Red Green Law I find actually quite difficult for this deck for the most part. They don't attack early, which means that you can't really board control them, because they will just get their 5 cards on board and start doing crazy shenanigans and just blow up your board, attack face with Rush Zoros. Like, they can do so much once they get their 5 characters. And it's really hard to get rid of their searchers when they're, blocking them and things like that. So that's why I put in the Jinbeis. I think the Jinbeis are important for Red Green Law, and they're also good for the red matchup. It's just one of the ways that you can interact with their board without them attacking first. So yeah, Law feels a little bit harder, I would say, than the other red decks for me personally, but I don't have that much experience, so I'll have to see. And then Kaido, not really sure what to say about Kaido. You kind of just, do your usual game plan. You swing at him. You basically just have to pressure him enough so that he can't just comfortably 10 drop you and blow up the board. You can mix up between going for life and going for his board. If you go for his board, he'll just blow up your board. If you go for his life, then he has to play more of like a board state. But you do also have to be worried about, Kaido just swinging for lethal out of nowhere. He can attach, 7 Dawn, swing for 12, use his ability, and then swing with like the 10 drop Kaido that he played the turn before. So be really wary if you're at 2 life. If you're against Kaido, he can just out of nowhere just bum rush you when you're not expecting it. And then, yeah, those are the 5 main matchups. In terms of what I think is favored and unfavored, honestly, I have no clue. But if I had to guess, I would say that Zoro and Luffy are probably my easier matchups. So far, I have found Kaido to be an easier matchup for me as well. I'm not sure if that's just like Kaido things, or maybe they just don't draw Onigashima or something. Red Green Law I find a little bit more difficult. And then Kid is probably the most difficult matchup. It's definitely the matchup I spend the most time thinking about. And even at my locals, when we have like 50-minute rounds, that game still took like 45 minutes. So that is what I would say about matchups. And then, so let's talk about why I think Doflamingo is not so popular / strong. So the most unfair thing about Doflamingo is that you can just keep cheating out these 4-cross Warlords, right? But let me just clean this up a bit so I can demonstrate what I mean. Let's just clean these up quick. So let's say you're going first, right? You have a 5-card hand of 5 random cards. I don't know, like Love, 2k counter, a blocker, a 1k counter, and Perona. Or yeah, sure. Or let's put in another counter card. So turn 1, you're gonna play Perona, and you're gonna have 4 cards left in hand. And then you're gonna stack your deck. Alright. So turn 1, you play Perona, and then you stack your deck, and then you get like on your next turn, on turn 2, when you have 3 Dawn, you're gonna swing with Doflamingo, rest Dawn, and then you're gonna get, wow, a Boa Hancock, right? But now, or off the top, and you have 5 cards in hand. Let's just say you draw a card. The issue is they can easily just swing into this Boa with their leader, and in order to save that, let's say they swing for 7, which is not uncommon. Like, they really want to get rid of this Boa. You need to give up 2 cards to protect it. And that's just kind of how the flow of the game always goes. Like, even though you're attacking with your leader 7k each turn, sometimes you don't need to swing with 7k. Sometimes you only maybe wanted to swing with 5. Whereas that's sometimes, like, the fact that you always have to swing with 2 Dawn on Doflamingo is a bit of a liability. Sure, it's great, The next turn you have 3 Dawn floating, right? And let's say you cheat out another Boa, right? Amaze Balls. But the problem now is you have 2 extra Dawn that is kind of useless. This is probably one of the best turns you can love Mellow because you don't really have any 2-cost plays on this turn. So that's the issue I find, is that most decks on their, second turn, they'll just play a card and swing with leader. That's like the say they play an Okiku or something. Whereas your turn is you play a rested card and you swing with leader. That's probably one of the liabilities. And so if you're able to save the first card you play, that's like a huge bit of importance, because from there, that's when you can really start pushing your advantage. Because now you have 2 swings. You can even put a Dawn on Boa to draw a card, etc. That is what I find to be the hardest part, is constantly protecting your rested cards, because they come out unrested, which means you need to commit cards in order to save them. So even though you're cheating out cards, you're still using cards to protect your cards. And that's why this deck ends up running out of cards so easily, and then you use things like Love, Mellow, and Boa to try to get your hand size back up. Now, on the contrary, against decks that like Kaido or Law that aren't able to pressure your board early or try to clear your board early, you can definitely get in a situation where you have a large hand and you have a lot of guys on board. But yeah, that doesn't always happen. So that is probably what I have found to be the biggest weakness of Doflamingo, is just protecting your rested cards is usually a liability. Because let's say you don't protect them, right? Or you don't have counter, and you play a rested card, they swing with leader for 5, and you don't block. You're like, great, I just saved a leader swing. The problem is you don't really care about them, or you don't really care about that. How do I explain this? As Doflamingo, you're more worried about managing the board rather than going for life. So if they're managing your board, that is something you care about. And so that's just how I feel about the deck. But yeah, so this is my first deck profile for the One Piece card game. I'll probably come back with other deck profiles or an updated Doflamingo list, things like that. I might even upload gameplay for Doflamingo. We'll see. But yeah, this will probably be the deck that I just bring to locals and stuff and have a good time with. Let me know what you guys think about Doflamingo. Anything I missed, things like that. And yeah, thanks for watching.